that, like here, while I'm teaching you, if you have any doubts or anything that you did not understand or anything that, like it did not get inside your head, then you can ask me anywhere. Okay? You don't have to hesitate, don't have to feel shy or anything about it. Okay?
Okay.
No matter if, even if the doubt is very silly, then also you can ask me the question. Okay? All
Yes.
right. So talking about the life processes, so life processes refers to all those activities or all those processes that take place inside our body so as to maintain our life. Okay, so that we can maintain our life. So the processes which are needed to maintain and sustain the human life are known as the life processes. Now, to do any kind of thing, right? Now, to do any kind of work, we require energy, isn't it? And that energy comes mostly from the food that we eat, right? So, if I say that we require energy, or if I say that we require nutrition, it's the same, isn't it? And all in all, it comes with the food that we eat. Now, the first topic that will come under the life process will be nutrition, digestion, and all of that. Like, how do we gain the nutrition or how do we get the energy? That is going to be the first topic. Now, see, if you remember in ninth class, you might have studied fundamental unit of life, right? In that, you
Yes.
might have studied about unicellular organisms and multicellular ones, isn't it? Do you know the difference in between them?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me.
Unicellular organism is like amoeba. They have only a particular one cell
Hmm.
in them, and then multicellular organisms are like human beings, animals. We have multiple
Yes.
cells in our body.
Very good. Correct. Now, in terms of their advancement, right, multicellular will obviously be obviously will be much more advanced as compared to the unicellular organisms. And unicellular organisms, they are the first organisms to come on Earth. So they are the primitive organisms. They are not very advanced as compared to the multicellular ones. Now, if we compare the nutrition in the case of unicellular and in the case of multicellular organism, so we'll come to that one conclusion that in the multicellular organism, the nutrition will be very complex, right? And in the unicellular organism, the nutrition will be very simple, extremely simple. So just like that, in the case of single-celled organisms or unicellular organism, the nutrition takes place by simple diffusion. Simple basic diffusion, meaning the movement of substances from a region of higher concentration to the region of lower concentration through a semi-permeable membrane. That's it. Like simple diffusion is all that they need. They do not need to procure the food, digest the food. No, they like they get their nutrition by simple diffusion means. Now, when we talk about the multicellular organisms, so in them, the nutrition cannot be done by just a simple diffusion method because their size are bigger, right? The number of cells are more, and in them, the cells form the tissue forms the organ, and the organ forms the organ system, right? So they need much more complex mechanism of, you can say, nutrition. So let's talk about that. So talking about what nutrition actually is, so it is the process of obtaining food for health and for growth, right? And apart from that, for all the other processes also, like repairing of tissues, right, bringing of new tissues, all of that, and also for reproduction. So now when we talk about the nutrition, so all in all, if we see, the nutrition is of two basic types. That's it. That is autotrophic and heterotrophic. These you can also call them as the modes of nutrition. Now, autotrophic mode of nutrition is the kind wherein the organism can make their own food. Auto means self. Trophic refers to the nutrition, right? So auto, like they can make their own food. But heterotrophic organisms cannot make their own food and they are dependent on the autotrophic either directly or indirectly. Now, the first case. The first is the autotrophic mode of nutrition. Now, we know whenever we think about autotrophic, the one organism that comes to our mind, is plants, right? Whenever you think about it, plants come to our mind. So this autotrophic obviously is present in all the green plants and some bacteria. Now, can you tell me why only the green plants? Why not any other color plants?
because they can make their own food.
That's true, but why only green plants can make their own food? Why this color discrimination? Why not any, like, why not blue? Why not purple? Why not dark green? Why not any other color? Why just green? Think
I don't know.
you know it. It is because of something that the green plants have that the other plants don't. And it is because of that something only the green plants are green in color.
Because they can make their own chlorophyll.
They cannot make their own chlorophyll. They have chlorophyll in their body. And because of that chlorophyll only, they look green in color. Because chlorophyll is a pigment. Pigment means a color which is greenish. Right? That is why only and only the green plants make their own food. If the plant is yellow, then it cannot photosynthesize. It cannot do the process of photosynthesis. Got it? Now, in
Yes.
the case of bacteria, you might have seen that I've written chemosynthesis over here. Now, see,
Yes.
depending upon the source of energy, for example, there are two types of autotrophic mode of nutrition. The first one is photosynthesis, and then there is chemosynthesis. Now, photo means light. So, the autotrophic mode of nutrition, which will take place in the presence of light, will be called as photosynthesis. And the nutrition or the autotrophic nutrition, which will be taking place in the presence of certain chemicals and not the light, because bacteria do not have chlorophyll. So those kind of autotrophic nutritions are called as like chemosynthesis. And these chemical means inorganic materials like H2S, that is hydrogen sulfide, and all of these like sulfur containing compounds are used. So that is chemosynthesis. So since bacteria do not have their own chlorophyll, so we'll call them as chemosynthetic in nature. They are autotrophic. Like some bacteria, they can make their own food, but not through light energy, not through sunlight, but through the chemical. Clear?
Yes.
Any doubts?
No.
Okay. Now talking about photosynthesis. So the process by which green plants make their own food with the help of carbon dioxide, water, sunlight, and chlorophyll. Okay, these are the, you can say, requirements: carbon dioxide, water, sunlight, and chlorophyll. This is known as photosynthesis. Ultimately, what is the food of the plant?
Sunlight.
No, the food. Like once they are done synthesizing the food, so what they have synthesized? Like what is the food? Glucose. Okay,
Look.
it is a glucose, and glucose is a carbohydrate. So if we sum total their like chemical reaction, so 6 molecules of carbon dioxide along with 12 molecules of water. Now see, anything that is written on top of the arrow or below the arrow, it means that the thing is happening in the presence of it. So in the presence of chlorophyll and in the presence of sunlight. Okay. And this would give us C6H12O6, that is glucose. This is the chemical formula for glucose. Along with that, it also gives us 6 molecules of water and 6 molecules of oxygen. Now, the glucose molecule and the water molecule, these are called as the products of photosynthesis, but the oxygen is called as a byproduct. Why? Because the oxygen that is released by the plants, it is not used by the plants. Rather, it is sent into the atmosphere so that we can use it for breathing. So it is used by humans and animals for breathing purpose. Got it? Always
Yes.
remember, if they will ask you what is the byproduct of photosynthesis, so you'd say oxygen.
Oxygen.
Okay. Now, once the food has been synthesized by the plant, just like how we make something in the kitchen, right? And like, for example, you've made some pasta, right? Okay. And like, once you are done cooking it, do you eat all of it standing then and there only? No, right? We don't do that. We take out the thing in some bowl and we like put it on the dining table and then we eat it, right? So, and we don't consume all of it at once. We store it also, isn't it? So that it can be eaten later on also if it gets left over. So same way, the plant stores the food product. Okay, this glucose molecule, it is also stored by the plant, but what plant does is that it changes the glucose molecule into starch. So the reserve food material of the plant is known as starch. It is the storage food material. Same way, if we are talking about plants, so animals also have a reserve food material, and that is glycogen. This you should know that glycogen is the reserve food material of animals, and starch is the reserve food material of plants. Any doubts?
Plants. No.
All the things are clear up until now?
Yes, no.
Sure? 100% sure?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now moving forward, let us see how the process of photosynthesis is taking place. Okay. Now, what happens is that, like I am telling you, that chlorophyll is extremely important for photosynthesis. Hmm? But why is it so important? Like, what is the function that it do? So the function performed by the chlorophyll is that, like, it absorbs the sunlight. There is no other pigment that can absorb the sunlight better than the chlorophyll. So the function of chlorophyll is to absorb the light energy. And where does the light energy comes from?
Sunlight.
Sunlight or the sun. Now, the first process of photosynthesis is absorption of light energy by the chlorophyll, which is the green colored pigment. This is the first step. Then, because like no organism can utilize the light energy as such, so that light energy gets converted into chemical energy. Okay, so in the second step, the light energy get converted into the chemical energy, and simultaneously splitting of water molecule takes place. Splitting of water molecule means, see, we know that the formula for water is H2O, right? Now this means that water is made up of two molecules of hydrogen and one molecule of oxygen,
Molecule of oxygen.
right? So if I say that 2H plus O gives us H2O. So what will H2O breakdown give you?
Um, two hydrogen and one oxygen.
Exactly. Two hydrogen plus one oxygen. So what happens here in this case, that splitting of water molecule takes place to release the hydrogen and the oxygen. Okay. And lastly, the third step of photosynthesis is the reduction of CO2 to carbohydrate, meaning the CO2 molecule which was taken in by the plants, that gets converted or that gets reduced to carbohydrate, which is the glucose molecule. Okay. So this is how, like, the whole entire process of photosynthesis takes place. Now, many a times a very famous question comes along, that the oxygen that is released as a byproduct of photosynthesis, where does it come from? So what would your answer be? The oxygen that is released as a byproduct of photosynthesis, where does it come from?
Um, from the splitting up of
Exactly,
what molecules?
exactly. 100% correct. So, earlier people used to think that the oxygen used to come from the CO2, but that's not true. When the discoveries were made, then they found out that the oxygen is coming from the water splitting. Also remember that this splitting of water means, like, it is also called as hydrolysis. Hydrolysis. Okay. Any doubts up until now?
No, ma'am.
All right. Okay. Now you can note down till here. Then we'll move forward. You can like make a fresh page for the chapter, then start taking down the notes. Now, while you're taking down the notes, you can switch off your video. And one more thing, that once you're completed the thing, just ask me to scroll down. Okay, I'll scroll it down for you.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, below the, the simple diffusion, you have written semi-permeable. I don't understand why is that there.
Yes, yes. Okay, see. Here I've written simple diffusion. That under that you can write down that. Wait, it is the movement of substances from a region of high concentration to low concentration. Okay, and that takes place through semi-permeable membrane. That's why I've written here through semi-permeable membrane, meaning the membrane has to be permeable, then only this can happen. Now see, here I've written this is for mostly for gases. Diffusion takes place mostly for gases, whereas when
Carbon
we talk,
dioxide.
yes, when we talk about the water, because the unicellular organism also needs a little bit of water. So when we talk about water, so the movement of water is known as osmosis. Or you can say the water also shows that it moves from a region of high concentration to low concentration. But since it is a liquid, so we'll call the movement of water as osmosis and not diffusion. Yeah. Yes.
Ma'am, done. Can you scroll down?
Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am. Done, ma'am. Ma'am, can you explain what is glycogen?
Yes. See, just like how the plant, they have starch, which is known as their reserve food materials. Same way, in the case of animal also, there is a reserve food material, meaning when we eat, our body does not utilize all of the food that we eat at once. So some of it gets stored in the form of glycogen in our muscles or in our body. So that is glycogen. It is the reserve food material for animals. This doesn't mean that animals do photosynthesis. No, it just means that whatever food that the animal eat, it gets stored in the body in the form of glycogen. Just like how reserve food material of plants is starch, same way the reserve food material of animals is glycogen. Clear?
Okay,
Hmm?
ma'am.
Any doubts?
Ma'am, for below photosynthesis, you wrote to make, then what's that Ford product?
Where?
After
To
is
make,
called as
yeah,
photosynthesis to make.
to make glucose, which is the food product, or to make the carbohydrate. Or
Oh, okay.
and here synthesis means to make. Photo means light, synthesis is to make. That is what I've written. Okay.
Oh,
Like when you
okay.
break down the word photosynthesis, the word photo means light, synthesis means to prepare something or to make something. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, after starch, reserve food material of plants, after that you have written H2O distribution. For that, it's supposed to be 2H and 1O, right?
Yeah, yeah. See, here I've shown you that like the water molecule is made up of hydrogen and oxygen. Usually, oxygen is present in the environment like O2, right? That is why I've written O2. Okay, and in that case, like in here also, there will be a 2 after O. Okay, because oxygen is always present like an element. So here it will be 2. Clear?
So both are 2.
No, this is a molecule. Two molecules of hydrogen are there, but one molecule of oxygen. Oxygen is
Oh,
written as O2. Okay.
okay. Ma'am, can you explain the third step of photosynthesis?
Yes. See, um, the here in the reaction, you can see that we have taken CO2 molecule, right? Now, this CO2 molecule is required for making the carbohydrate or for making the glucose molecule. Now, what happens in this case is that, do you know there is a thing called as reduction and oxidation?
Yes, ma'am. We have learned
Hmm.
in chemistry.
Yeah, you've learned it in chemistry. So that reduction process that takes place with the CO2 molecule, meaning the CO2 molecule undergoes the process of reduction, and then the carbohydrate is formed, meaning C6H12O6 is formed. That is a glucose molecule. Okay, so after the CO2 molecule gets reduced, then the carbohydrate is formed. That is what that line says. Okay,
Why is it written is equal to glucose?
I've written like this carbohydrate is the glucose because the glucose is the food of the plant. If you think about
Uh,
the nature of glucose, like if I say what is glucose, so you'd say, ma'am, it is a carbohydrate. So you can say that
okay.
glucose is an example of a carbohydrate. That is why I've written is equal to glucose, meaning the carbohydrate that we are talking about here is the glucose molecule. Clear?
Okay.
So you're done writing till here?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, moving forward, let us talk about the exchange of gases, or how the plants they regulate, take like how they take in the oxygen or take in the carbon dioxide, how that happens. Now, you might have heard about stomata, right? Now you can switch on your video. So you might have heard about stomata. Now, stomata is that pore-like structure which is present on the leaf. Okay. And this stomata is very important in terms of the gaseous exchange of the plant. Now,
Excuse me, ma'am. I cannot on my camera.
why? What happened?
It is saying that you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
Can you start it now? Check.
Now.
Okay. Yeah. Now, talking about the stomata, so it is a pore-like structure. Pore means a hole, right? A hole. So the stomata is a pore-like structure, and it is present in the leaf. Now, you know that the leaf has an upper surface and a lower surface, right? So this number of stomata in the upper surface is very less, and the number of stomata in the lower surface is a lot. You can say abundance of stomata is there in the uh, lower surface of the leaf. Now, why? So that the plant can be protected from excessive loss of water, because since stomata is a hole, it is a pore, right? So if the leaf comes in contact with the sunlight and everything, water evaporation takes place. So to protect the plant from loss of excess of water, the stomata is not present here on the upper surface, rather it is present on the lower surface, so that the air or the sunlight will not fall too much on the lower surface as compared to the upper surface, isn't it? That is why. Now, the gaseous exchange takes place through the stomata. Now, you might have heard that the stomata remains open during the day and it closes during the night. Have you heard that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So, it means that the stomata can open and close, right? So, now this opening and closing of stomata, it is regulated by guard cells. These are special cells that help in the opening and closing of the stomatal pore. Okay. So, for example, if this is like in the middle, this is the pore, that is the stomata. So, on the either side of the stomata, the guard cells are present like this. Okay. Now, what happens is that whenever the guard cells absorb water, they swell up, because of which the stomata is open. Okay. And when the guard cells, they lose the water, they shrink down, so the stomata closes. Sort of like the whole entire movement is like this. For example, my two hands are the guard cells. Okay, so they are present like this. So once they'll absorb the water, they'll get swollen and they'll open the stomatal pore like this. So now the
Oh.
stomatal pore stays open throughout the day.
So when it gets swollen, it will open its pores.
Yeah, just like that. The guard cell, when the guard cells will swell. Okay, so this is the guard cells, and when the guard cells will swell up, they'll open the stomatal pore like this. And when they'll shrink down, meaning when they lose water, so they'll close it back. Clear? So the guard cells swell up as water flows in them, causing the stomatal pore to open. And when the guard cells shrink down, they close the stomatal pore. Now, the condition in which the guard cell is swollen, right? When it has absorbed the water and it got swollen, so that condition is known as a turgid guard cell. Turgid means a swollen guard cell. And when the guard cell has lost the water, meaning now it has become shrunken, so we'll call it as a flaccid guard cell. Clear?
Okay. Yes.
Okay, now you can note it down. Any doubts in this?
No, ma'am.
Okay, very good. Okay, now you can note it down.